Okay, so what we're going to be looking at in our notes is mercantilism. If you keep out your study guide, we are going to correct things because a lot of people had issues with like 6 on their study guide. So we're going to fix that as we go along, but I don't want you to rewrite it because you're going to have it here. So what we're going to look at is the merits and menaces of mercantilism, which again, I feel that most people have issues with it. So question 1 is basically this idea here, that the country with the most power is the country with the most gold. So that's what you should have had in number 1. The country with and the book said the country with the most military and political power, which is a measured amount of gold and silver they have in their treasury. But basically, anybody who has the most gold is the most powerful country. And so this is why we know China used to have it, right? So what was introduced to trade with China? To circumvent that gold and silver, what did they introduce? Opium, because China was the most powerful because they had all that gold. But these Europeans tried to get the Chinese away from having that gold and silver by introducing the opium. And now that they have the gold and silver, they said, colonists, we only want you to trade in gold and silver to us. So did that harm their economy when they had to pay for manufactured goods in gold and silver? Because what are they lacking now if they have to give their gold and silver to the English? Gold and silver. So in question 5 says, how did they make up for that currency shortage? They produced what? They used other goods to barter, right? Such as what? Butter, nails, pitch, which pitch we're going to realize is something that goes into tar. Okay? They also had feathers in there, and they also had paper money. All of this is going to play into the revolution because England wants all that gold there. And so England said that this would benefit their empire if all the gold stayed in here. And there's 3 things that will benefit. First off, the colonies would get naval supremacy, that the British Navy would protect the vessels. Those vessels would be carrying their raw materials to England. So it's mutually beneficial that their stuff would come to England, it would be bought. Also, when those vessels came back to the colonies, they would be carrying manufactured goods. So the colonies did not need to go to other countries to get manufactured goods. They would get it directly from England. But what would they have to give to the English in return? Gold and silver, which would put a currency shortage. And lastly, they said, yes, you're giving us the gold and the silver, but it's remaining in the empire. And if we have the most gold and silver, we are the best nation, and you're a part of that as well. But looking at this, who does this benefit? England or the colonies, the gold and silver remaining in the empire? England. England having the manufactured goods, that means the colonies can only do what? Can they have factories? No, they're only producing the raw materials. And so England being able to manufacture, does that really benefit the colonies? No, it benefits who first? England. And again, yes, England has the Navy, but they're trying to protect their raw resources. So looking at mercantilism, if we just looked at these 3 things, who did they overall benefit? England. But they keep on telling the colonists, you're getting something, right? This is good for you. So we know that they're going to try to reinforce, I'll go back. They're trying to reinforce mercantilism with the idea of the navigation laws. And we saw people do their presentation about why the navigation laws were great. Sir Edmund Andros came in saying he was trying to get the New England colonies, along with some of the Middles, to enforce these laws. Because had they been enforced, that the colonies traded just with England. Okay? And so this was not enforced because of salutary neglect. You probably know what this word is, right? Neglect. What does that mean? They're not being taken care of. Salutary means a legitimate authority has forgotten about. And that's why during the colonial period, was there a highly centralized government or less centralized government? Less, because there was no one there. After the French and Indian War, that government will come in and they're going to try to implement the navigation laws. Okay? And there's several reasons why. On question 3, it says, we know too the colonies are going to provide the raw materials. On 3, the purpose of it is to regulate mercantilism, but the second reason on number 3 was to get protection from the Dutch. Because the Dutch were coming in, selling goods in America, and were they cheaper than the English goods? And so the Americans were buying English goods, which means what was leaving the empire? Gold. And that was allowing who to become more powerful? The Dutch. And England was very upset. Okay, question 4 says, what were the subsequent navigation laws require? Here are the things that they subsequently required. They required European goods. So if we wanted to go to France and buy French furs and Parisian perfume, we couldn't go directly to France. That stuff must come to England, collect a tariff, and then it could go to the colonies. So then what happened to the price? It went up. Do you think colonists wanted to do that? Buy Parisian perfume from England? Because the price was expensive. So what would the colonists do? Buy it from where? The Dutch, who were probably selling it for cheaper. But is there people in the Americas that have shipping that could go out there and buy this stuff? What colonial area has the shipping? New England. So could some of these guys go to France, buy those luxury goods, and bring it back to the colonies at a cheaper price? Because what is it lacking? The tariff. So if they are going around this rule, what does that make them? That they're illegally bringing things into a nation. They're smugglers. Are they breaking the law? Yes, and this is what the revolution is about, is that the colonists are trying to get around mercantilism. Because what happens to the price of goods? It goes up. Also, they're restricted to trade only on English ships. So are those New England ships really English ships? No. So this attacks the New England way of life. Lastly, enumerated items can only be manufactured in England, such as those nice beaver hats. So looking at this, what I've just gone over, which colonial region is being attacked by the navigation laws? New England. And are they going to like this? And so many Americans for a time will ignore these laws because was there a government coming in to enforce them? No. And they found trade extremely profitable by going to other nations. Why was it profitable? Why was it profitable for someone in New England to go to France and bring back stuff? It was cheaper, and it was cheaper than the tariff price. So they would go over there, and these laws, they're going to see that they restrict their freedoms to have their own business. So when the British begin enforcing these laws, the American shippers will what? They're going to what to these laws? Are they going to follow them? No. They are going to smuggle, and then when they get in trouble for smuggling, what are they going to do? Rebel. So Americans would smuggle because they don't want to follow these rules, and they will later rebel. So the next thing we're going to talk about is question 6. On question 6, it asks for the advantages and disadvantages. In our notes, it says merits and menaces. So which one do you think is the advantages? Merits. Which one do you think is the disadvantages? Okay, so the merits of this system. It gave price supports for favored goods, which included rice, sugar, and tobacco. What area produced the rice, sugar, and tobacco? The South. So in that letter we just wrote, were they being very loyal? Yes, because do they benefit from mercantilism? Yes, also the planters of tobacco had a monopoly. England said they would buy all their tobacco. We're going to see they provided protection from the Navy. There would be no new taxes as long as they followed mercantilism. But were they following mercantilism? So that is why taxation will occur, because they were not following this. And the last thing is that the English said if they were to follow this, and prosperity would stay with England, it would trickle down to the colonies that the colonies would benefit. But do you think the colonies are going to get that trickle down effect where the wealth comes to them as well? No, and this is why they feel that they have to revolt. Okay, and what colonial region is benefiting the most? Okay. We are going to look at the disadvantages, which is the menaces, which is chapter 6, on question 6. Economic initiative is stifled. The colonies could only produce what? Raw materials or manufactured goods?
Raw materials.
And so the economic initiative that is stifled is the manufacturing of goods. Again, I already told you the southern colonies are favored. So which colonial region is the revolution going to start in? Because they are not favored by this policy and they are violating it. New England. They had to use the English middlemen, the English shippers. They had to use the English banks. And lastly, I saw a couple of y'all had this as the last reason. They felt debased. What it means to feel as debased means you feel used. The colonists really felt that they were only used for their raw resources.